shave it. Hey, where's Mr. Substitute Teacher here? All right, let's just do it. I'm going to call this work session to order. If we could call up our favorite director from Catonsville, Mr. Will Anderson, and if the council could turn to page 10, Resolution 18-19. Mr. Anderson.
I'm a minute late.
You are in trouble. You're getting suspended.
Mr. Chairman, that was very kind of you, although I realize I am the only director from Catonsville, but
That's right.
if I can be your favorite, I'll be your favorite.
I think during snow days, it's Mr. Steve Walsh who's all our favorites.
That's true. That's true. Okay, this resolution is in support of Floor and Decor. So we mentioned this project out at Trade Point Atlantic 2 weeks ago. And this was a MEDAF program at the state. So this is to allow the state to make their $700,000 conditional loan to the project. The county will do its match in a follow-on grant, a 10% match to allow it to happen. If you remember, it's a $65 million investment for a 1.5 million square foot distribution center. Floor and Decor is really an interesting and rapidly growing company out of Georgia, where they're bringing in tile and flooring, and they're direct shipping all over the country, direct to consumers. And we've been working on this deal with the Port Authority and the state for probably a year while they were looking at the site, and they finally pulled the trigger, and now they want to build it fast, and we'll be opening it up and adding all the jobs by the end of this calendar year if all goes well. So thank you for your support of this resolution.
Councilman Crandall.
Good to see you again, Mr. Anderson. Do you have job projections for Floor and Decor?
Yeah, they're projecting 150 new jobs. That doesn't count construction, which will be an order of magnitude greater than that to build.
The news came out last week that Home Depot is locating at the site as well. So I imagine we'll be looking at a similar program. This seems like these conditional loans they're part of the state's strategy to incentivize and lure companies to Baltimore County, correct?
Yes, and we
can expect to see more of these.
Absolutely. I mean, we've used the state's conditional loan program for most of the projects at Trade Point Atlantic and actually throughout the county. And then the county has a small match that is required in the deal. This was certainly a big part of it for Floor and Decor when they were looking at other sites to get this. And there's a few other incentives that the state is providing to them to try to draw them in.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman.
Yes, very quickly, the $70,000, it's a loan?
It's a conditional loan.
But it does not count against the county's, when we float bonds, et cetera, does it?
Correct.
It does not.
It does not. And we follow the state with the reporting requirements, so we're in it together. So proof that they have delivered 1 million square feet, proof that they have delivered X number of jobs, proof that they have made the capital investment, and then when they show that evidence to the state, it becomes a forgivable loan and then turns into a grant out of our economic development fund.
No, hold it. So the 70,000 becomes a grant?
A forgivable loan, so it'll be a grant at that point, if they meet all the obligations.
So seems like we do this frequently, and I'm not talking about Trade Point, but in general, how much have we, like last year, fiscal year, actually spent
In these conditions?
Any idea?
I'll pull it together. We tend to be the very small partner on these big state deals. You know, we tend to come in at the minimum of 10%, so it's usually on the order of tens of thousands of dollars rather than millions at the state level. But I'll pull that together for you to show in the last fiscal year. Some of them are still in the loan status because it's going to take 2 or 3 years for build-out and full employment before they go from loan to a forgivable loan. But I'll give you all the numbers over the past.
To a grant, loan
Correct.
to a grant. And so it's forgiven if they meet certain conditions.
Correct.
right?
And they're usually tied to spending a certain amount in capital investment and employment, and that employment has to persist over a certain amount of time.
So who's paying the premium on these loans? I mean, who's paying them?
Where's the money sourced from?
Yeah.
So Maryland has the Maryland Economic Development Fund.
Okay.
And if we looked back over the past couple of years, Baltimore County's been a very big recipient of those funds. A lot of it's been around Trade Point Atlantic because of the timing and scale of those projects.
So what you're saying is the state is paying the debt associated with, will pay the debt associated with the $70,000 loan?
Oh, excuse me, I thought you meant the larger
No,
part of it.
okay, the 70.
The county's portion is in our Economic Development Fund. That's where we source those funds from.
So the county pays, do we actually take out a loan?
We do not.
Okay,
We are
I see.
making, it's already money that's been appropriated. It's money that we're putting out in the form of a conditional loan.
But, I see, so we're not floating any bonds, we're not paying.
Correct.
Okay, so okay, how much is in that fund? Does it change, or?
It changes year over year. There's multiple uses that come out of that revolving loan fund, housing projects, economic development projects. We're in the budget process right now. I'd have to look at what level that's at the current state, but it changes annually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Mr.
other
Chair.
questions or comments, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a comment. Is this something comparable to what we gave McCormick to stay in Baltimore County in the 3rd District?
This is much smaller than all the commitments the county made to get them to build the headquarters in Hunt Valley.
Right.
That involved us doing a lot of road improvements, neighborhood improvements to help alleviate traffic and pedestrian safety. If you counted it all in, this is a much smaller county contribution.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? All righty, thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we now call up Mr. Tim Sheridan, Court Administrator for the Circuit Court. And to my colleagues, I'm going to have Lauren talk about the addendum because we don't have it in our packets. And so, Lauren, if you could just talk to us about this addendum, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Sheridan.
Thanks. Mr. Jeffrey Dobson. The only reason you don't have the addendum is because we are waiting on an approved 902F form, part of the procurement, that it's in the best interest of the county. So
Can you tell us about the fiscal note we talked about?
I believe it's $62,000 a year for 6 years, so it would be $372,000. Again, for him, he's an attorney to provide foreclosure review services on behalf of the Circuit Court. He's been doing this since 2014, and
All right. Good
Chairman,
afternoon.
County Council, Tim Sheridan from the Circuit Court on behalf of the judges. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce Stephanie Medina, who is our new Deputy Court Administrator, and we're very glad to have her. So, yes, that was very good synopsis. This is a contract with a foreclosure specialist. This is something when the foreclosure spiked back in a few years ago, we were at odds with Mr. Dobson, who is an attorney with licenses in like 4 different states and had been a law clerk at the court. So he's been at the court, around the court for close to a decade, and at the district court before that. And so he's become very valuable in that he drafts the foreclosure checklist. A foreclosure review at the court level involves checking 4 or 5 different sources of law to see if things have been done, and then proceeding that file onto a judge for ratification of the process. But there's a lot of little technical pieces. Mr. Dobson has become very good at this, and we also hire law students, and they review also, but they sort of report back to Mr. Dodson. So the sole source nature is is pretty important to us because I don't really think anybody else could do what he's doing. He really is close to being confidant of the 5 foreclosure judges of how the process works in its current form. And the foreclosure numbers have not really abated to the point where we could ever go back to where we were before, which I don't think we want to do from a quality standpoint. We don't know what was happening with foreclosures a decade ago, and we're really good with them now. We have a very strict foreclosure policy, and it benefits, I think, the citizens of the county. So as far as the fiscal note goes, it's interesting that this money, I estimate every year about $85,000 is what we spend on the foreclosure services program, and that money goes into our budget that is approved every year by county council. So as we're sitting here, we've appropriated $85,000 for this year. We haven't spent all of it, nor will we spend all of it for the year, but it's the $25,000 to one person issue that is bringing us to the county council, whereas where we need the county council approval. We're not really asking for any more money. We're asking to be able to pay one person more than $25,000. So from a fiscal note standpoint, I almost think it's a neutral situation. We're not really asking for more. And I don't know if that answers the council's questions or if there's more.
Any questions or comments from the council? Everybody okay? All right, and then Lauren, we'll get something from you between now and the. Okay. Okay. I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I don't see Amy Grassi here yet. Is somebody going to call? I did text Kimmy. I don't know if she got my text. I did. Finding Amy Grassi. While we're waiting for Amy Grassi, why don't we go to page 1? We got Greg Gaskins here. And page 1, the contract with Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston, page 1.
The administration respectfully requests the approval of the council to engage the legal services of the law firm of Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston, LLP. Whiteford, Taylor, and Preston would assist the county with litigation relative to the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, commonly referred to as RLUIPA, which is found at 42
very much. The title is Religious Land Use and Institutional Persons Act. I'm very familiar with the first part, the religious part. Institutionalized persons, was Congress referring to group homes, people like that?
It refers, the institutionalized persons, from my understanding, applies to persons who are in penal institutions. And usually, I think it refers to certain inmates, maybe who require a certain meal. That might be a common situation.
Oh, okay.
They require no meat or things like that.
So it has nothing to do with housing. It's a specific,
No.
totally different area. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments from the council? Very good. All right, why don't we go to page 5, contract with the law offices of Lisa M. Harris, Harris Jones and Malone. Page 5.
All right, again, the administration respectfully requests council approval to engage the services of the law offices of Lisa M. Harris LLC, doing business as Harris Jones and Malone LLC. Harris, the firm would provide labor negotiation services pursuant to Article 7 of the county charter and Article 4, Title 5 of the Baltimore County Code. Article 4, Title 5 requires the administration and the exclusive representatives of the county's 6 recognized representation units to meet at reasonable times with respect to the county's budget submission date, negotiating good faith with respect to wages, hours, and terms and conditions of employment, and the drafting of a written memorandum of understanding concerning all matters agreed upon and signed by authorized representatives of both parties. The contract, the county desires to piggyback this contract on a labor relations negotiation contract issued by Howard County, which was entered into on December 18, 2013, and expires on November 30, 2019. The county feels that this was the best value based on the piggyback. The term of the agreement will be from January 1st, 2019 until March 31st, 2019. I'm sorry. The term of the contract will go from January 1st, 2019 until March 31, 2019, unless the council approves the agreement, in which event will go to November 30, 2019, unless terminated sooner. In no event shall the total compensation exceed the sum of $87,083.26 during the entire term of the agreement.
Councilman Jones?
One quick question. Who used to do the negotiations prior to this firm?
It had been,
Prior was George Bailey. George Bailey was the labor negotiator for the county for many years. He was the employment director of HR and continues to do the labor negotiations. In terms of the giving guidance to the then, in terms of the executive or the administrative officer, in terms of us identifying what our goals were, and then he would be interested to come to agreement with a voluntary agreement.
Okay. I know that oftentimes when you think about union contracts, it's not just about one negotiation. I mean, unions and anybody have strategies and goals and things they want, and they negotiate these things over years. In other words, the contract builds upon itself. Maybe we don't get that this year. Maybe we get a piece of it this year. Maybe we get the rest next 3 years, or maybe we get more than, will somebody bring this firm up to speed in terms of prior negotiations and what are some of the goals of the labor unions?
Yes, just a comment on the firm that's being hired that's being proposed here for contract agreement. I believe that principal in the firm, Sean Malone, was a former labor commissioner for Baltimore City. Do you know if that is correct, Mr. Gaskins? No, I believe for Baltimore City, I think prior to him leaving city employment, he was the labor commissioner for Baltimore City, and I believe he took over midstream in labor negotiations when they were going poorly. And I believe he's got substantial experience in doing this kind of negotiation.
Chief Labor Negotiator for Howard County, negotiated contracts for all of Howard County's bargaining units, extensive background in public sector labor negotiations. Retained by Anne Arundel and Harper counties for labor matters. Prior to collective bargaining arbitration on behalf of Anne Arundel County, and then in 2017 negotiated director of verdicts for Anne Arundel County. So clearly he's got a lot of labor negotiating experience.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Maybe this is a policy question. Do you see this as temporary, where Harris and Malone are going to be helping us for this year as things, get settled, or do you think this is like a long-term new way to do business?
We're not asking currently for you to consider this as the long term. We were in December, George Katie was retired, and the lengthy negotiation process has begun. We needed to move quickly and to bring someone on. And so at the end of this process, we will reevaluate and see what next steps can be.
Is the new HR director that we just confirmed, Ms. Benjamin, does she have experience in labor negotiations herself?
No, my understanding, that will not be part of her responsibility. How much she may take in action, I'm not certain, but that will not be part of her responsibility.
Yeah, who will be the lead person from the administration in regard to these negotiations? Okay. 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 Okay, thank you.
So I am able to confirm that Sean Malone was labor commissioner for the city of Baltimore from September 2003 to January 2007, and then moved from the mayor's office to the governor's office, I think as deputy legislative officer.
Other questions from the flip side? Everybody good? Everybody good with this? Anybody else? Alrighty, and I was told that our final order of business for the day, which was page 7, that Amy Grassi is
Yes, we were notified that the administration wanted to pull that matter for this agenda for Monday, so I would assume it may come back at a later date.